Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Pigs on the Run from Pig Works and P&G. I'm Betsy Ross, and this week we are talking with Erin Gratsch. She is such a familiar face on Flying Pig and Queen Bee weekend. Erin, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you doing?
Just fine. So this is the summer of no events. So what have you been doing with your summer running skills?
Well, that COVID-19 thing, 19 pounds, I think is what everyone's calling it, the COVID-19 pounds. I feel like I was really going great at first, getting out there running a lot. I was kind of losing a little bit of weight, and then it just kind of slumped a little bit. I think my running friends and I were like, well, all these people working from home now are getting out and they're losing weight, and we have no events. So we're all gaining weight, but now back on the upswing of things, and running a little bit more. I also do some cross training, some weight training. So just trying to get ready for, the pig, obviously, the queen bee, the virtual. So those are two virtual events that I've decided to do. I think people are being a little bit more choosy nowadays. I got kind of burned in March with an event, and they weren't so friendly about giving money back or giving you options. So it was a chunk of change, and I've learned my lesson. So I'm definitely being a little more choosy these days.
And a lot of people are, I think. But you have been such a good friend to the Flying Pig and to the Queen Bee events all these years. What is it that brings you back every year to be involved in those races?
I just got the chills. Honestly, community, I love Cincinnati. The Flying Pig is probably, outside of Boston, it is my favorite race by far. I love Iris. I did the first one in 2001, so it's grown quite a bit since then. They didn't even have a half marathon at that point. In the race, and just the organization, just from the time, the medals, the swag, if you will, is just amazing. The course itself, it's challenging, it's beautiful, in the community that comes together. I just love Cincinnati. It's my first marathon, so it's the first one I've ever done. It's my fastest marathon, believe it or not. So all of you people out there that hate the hills, I ran a 3:27 in 2008 and a 3:20. I was like 11 seconds off the following year, in 2009. I think that might have been when we hit the fire, so it doesn't reflect that on my time when you look it up. But it just, I love this city. I'm from here. It's one of my favorites. So I just have to do it. It's just not even a question.
Well, that's good to hear. We like having you there. But another thing that you do, of course, is you are a pacer. It has to be so fulfilling for any pace team leader to be able to get your group across the finish line in the time that you promised them. I mean, that's got to be such a great feeling for you personally.
It is. It really is. I was a while ago, back in 2008 and 9, I was doing Boston, and then 2 weeks later, I had a lot of pressure on myself. People were always asking, well, how fast are you going to run the pig? And I just decided, I used to coach mini marathon training when I lived in Indy. So I was a coach for many years, and I just loved the reward of helping others take them from mile 0 and then coach them to 13 miles. But just being there and helping them cross the finish line is almost just more rewarding, if you will, than crossing it for yourself, because you help someone and they'll come up to you and they cry and they hug, and it's something when you give back, and it, not that it takes any pressure off yourself, but you're helping others, so you are pressured because you know that you can't have a nagging pain, or if you're in pain, you have to pretend like you're not, so that you don't look weak to them. So it's I always say it's almost like teaching. I'm a fitness instructor as well. It's almost like teaching a 4-hour fitness class, just cheering them on, being their cheerleader. In 2019, or I think, no, 2018, whatever the really rainy Boston was, I decided, I'd done Boston so many times and I wanted to give back. And I actually paced a blind runner. And I think, you know, just knowing that we all have different obstacles when we're training, and how, you know, the things that we have to go through and the amount of hours that we put in, and, you know, what are we trying to overcome? Who are we trying to run for, is definitely something that pushes us through that day. And so when I raced, or when I was pacing this blind girl, I had never met her before. I met her the morning of. She trusted me. She couldn't see. I was taking her to the bathroom before the race. We immediately became friends. And, you know, she had battled anorexia and overcame that to be able to train for a marathon. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but she had to get healthy enough so that she could run that distance. And, you know, just learning her story, I didn't know why she was there, or, you know, how she got there, but, you know, and just helping her, and she trusted me every step. And, you know, railroad track, I had to tell her to, you know, railroad track jump, you know, and it was in torrential downpour, 30-degree weather, one of the worst weathers in Boston. But she crossed the finish line, and in that year, my watch went off, but there's no way to like reset it. So, but our goal was 4 hours, and I think she did it in like 4:01. But she ended up coming in second female overall in the blind division, and got a free entry in 2019. So it's just, for me, and she was crying, bawling, you know, for me to have that and experience that with somebody else is just, I can't describe it. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah. What a great story. Speaking of stories, your story is pretty well known around town, and you have been so generous to talk about it. Your own health issues that you have battled. I love the fact that you say that this was all kind of, I don't know if you want to say fate, if you want to say divine intervention, but all of this kind of happened because you had a feeling that I needed to get a mammogram. Talk a little bit about your story and really how that has led to this healthy journey that you're on.
Well, I was taking my mother to the Barrett Center in 2014, and I was running, and you know, just running is an outlet for me. So just running through the pain, running through that. I lost her at the end of 2014. 2015, I ran 5 marathons, including Boston, qualifying for Boston, in Boston, paced the Flying Pig, and did a half Ironman. And then in 2016 is when, again, I ran Boston, qualified in Boston, ran the Flying Pig, paced it the 2 weeks later. And a week after that, I was at Fresh Time, and I decided there was a mammogram mobile unit outside of Fresh Time. And I thought to myself, you know, I haven't had a mammogram in a while. I really need to get checked, even though I had no family history, no signs, no symptoms. I was negative for the gene. My mom died of cancer, but I had genetic testing. They said it was nothing related to mine. So I knocked on the door, and a woman came to the door, and she said, "Do you have an appointment?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Come on in." And I'm sweaty. I just ran over at LA Fitness. And so she brings me in. She's like, "Just use these wet wipes. You're good to go." And she screened me. And so I went about my day, thought, you know, that's fine. I'll get my results in the mail. I'll be fine. They called me and brought me back in and did the ultrasound and some other diagnostic mammogram, and then said, "You need a biopsy." I went back, and that same woman was there by my side during the biopsy. And I'm laying there at the Barrett Center, and I start crying. And because I was, you know, nervous, I was scared. And it was the first time that I had been back since, you know, my mom was there. And so I'm laying there on the table, and I'm like, I don't want to be a wimp, and I want to be brave like she was. And I don't want to go through chemotherapy. You know, I don't want to die. And I have 3 boys. And so Sharon was rubbing my back, and she was like, "You're in the best care. These doctors are the best in the city." And so she is a really good friend since I actually talked to her last night. But she became my guardian angel. My mom was at the UC Barrett Center, and that day that the mobile unit was there, it was a UC mobile unit. I think my mom really put that there for me. And so Sharon was my guardian angel my mom gave me. And Sharon was ready to leave that day. And they were getting ready to pull out of the parking lot. And she turned everything back on just so she could screen me, because she said, later I found out, she said, I couldn't leave knowing that what if you were to get diagnosed with cancer? And so she did the right thing, and she stayed and she took care of me. And I really feel like I'm here today because of it. I was 45, which is actually when they tell you to start screening for mammograms. But my surgeon looked at me and she said, you've probably had this for a while. She said, and it's a faster growing type of cancer. It's a level 3, and it's triple hormone negative, which is a deadlier type of breast cancer. So from the time that I was diagnosed to the time that I had my mastectomy was 1 month. She wanted it out yesterday. I had like 3 biopsies, 2 MRIs in between that time, just in that time. I had a mastectomy. It's not like just getting, a enhancement, if you will. You're removing body parts, and, it's not that simple. So blood flow, lack of blood flow, complications in that way. When I had my surgery, I was walking. Miles are miles, so I'd get out there and I just walk. It helped me. It helped my recovery. It helped me feel better. So I had a mastectomy around June 16th, and I had my last and 5th surgery February 14th of 2017. So roughly 6 months of surgeries, 5 at least, I think. 5 or 6.
But in the middle of that,
maybe.
in the middle of that, you did the Queen Bee.
Yes. My doctor, who's also a runner, my surgeon, she really didn't know. She's like, I didn't want to hear that, but I had surgery in, what was it? Well, when was the Queen Bee? Was it
Queen Bee's always in October?
The surgeries, it just all runs together. And approximately 2 weeks later, I still had a tube, and I tucked it underneath my Queen Bee skirt, and I was dressed as a bumblebee, and I'm like, I'm a streaker. I've done every single one. So my girlfriend, she's like, you're not doing it alone. She dressed in pink, and we walked most of it. And I think I might have cheated and ran the last 4 miles, but I finished. It was great. I just wanted to be there. I mean, I just didn't want to miss out. I wanted to inspire people and, just let people know my story and help others, because, early detection is the key to what treatment you get, what stage you're in, what your survival rate is. It's highly important. And right now, I'm really afraid that women are afraid to go get their mammograms because of COVID-19. So what is going to happen is people are going to be staged in 3 and 4 when they do find out, because they waited. It's I promise, it's unreal. And I just started on the advisory board for Pink Ribbon Girls to help promote and do some fundraising for them, and they think the same thing. They think that this is what we're going to see, and so more people are going to need help, and more people are going to need more care. And it's easier to go 10 minutes. There's mobile units, there's walk-ins, all over the city, and it only takes 10 minutes, and you can get a 3D, which I highly recommend because it catches cancer 25% earlier. But 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer, 1 in 8. So it's super important.
And you mentioned that you were walking through most of your treatment. Not only is walking and running good for your body, but it's good for your emotional status as well, your emotional health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think for me, like I said, it's been an outlet, when I have something happen in my life where I feel just going for a run clears my mind, clears my head. In Boston, when I was there and the bombs went off, I finished 18 minutes before the bombs went off. I was injured and my leg was hurting me. But like that following Monday, I had to run. I just had to feel the pain in my body. Like I had to feel it in my legs because it gave me it was just running for the people that were injured. I was alive. I was lucky. And so it gives you a sense of just being alive and, you have to appreciate it. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. So you can't live in fear. You have to definitely be aware of your surroundings, but you can't live in fear. You have to be able to get out there and just reach your goals, and it keeps me going.
And that's so true for so many people. And you're right, it's great to see so many people during these last few weeks and months getting out, getting on a trail. Downtown, you see people running. So hopefully that will be a habit now that people will continue. Well, Erin, we love your story and we love you and everything that you have done for the Flying Pig and the Queen Bee. Best of health, and thanks for being with us on Pigs on the Run.